This is a free sample of the book, Reinvent Ideal, What to Do When You're Depressed and No One Cares Because You're Not a Chick, by Cairo Copeland. The first half of this book is posted right here on YouTube, free for everyone to listen to. If you like this content and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/ideal. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/ideal.
Chapter 2, Zeroed Out. In 2019, Joker was released, starring Joaquin Phoenix in the title role, Arthur Fleck, who becomes the Joker. Around the release of the movie, there was a lot of media hype about how it may lead to violence. The idea was that its content legitimized the negative feelings of incels, short for involuntary celibate, and frustrated males and lifelong single guys, and would justify them acting out. In the typical behavior of a female primary social order, the media said nothing about the problems these guys were facing, but rather portrayed them as a danger. While the movie inspired no violence, it certainly inspired a lot of conversations about the male condition in today's world, which is exactly what the filmmakers wanted, but definitely not what the fempowerment mandate cared to acknowledge. Spoiler alert. Please see the movie before listening to the rest of this chapter, if you haven't already. It's well worth the view. Now, what are some of the issues about the male condition that the movie explores? There's working an undesirable job, because Arthur is a professional clown. Being the target of bullying and pranks, there's the kids beating him up in the alley, the coworker that gives him a gun to get him in trouble. Getting fired from the job without even your side of the story being heard, when his boss fires him over the phone without giving him a chance to speak for himself. It's a lot like being dumped with a text message and subsequently blocked, or when HR doesn't even care to hear your explanation because you're male and must be bad. Publicly shamed, when Murray Franklin plays the video of Arthur bombing as a stand-up comic. Imaginary relationships, where the dates and conversations that he has with the pretty girl occur only in his head, as that is the only relationship with a woman outside of his mother that the world allows him to have. Denied legitimacy of his existence, when Thomas Wayne denies any association with him. Discovering his whole life has been a lie, when he learns his mother's been lying to him since childhood, much like the discovery of blue pill cultural conditioning that many guys are awakened to. These are the problems in life that can drive any man into madness. You don't have to be mentally ill to begin with, like Arthur was. But perhaps the best scene that sums it all up is the climactic scene when he goes on the Murray Franklin show all dressed up as Joker. While the show is being shot live, he confesses to the murders committed earlier in the movie, but sets up the confession as if it were a joke. Murray: "Okay, I'm waiting for the punchline." Arthur: "There is no punchline. It's not a joke." Murray: "You're serious, aren't you? You're telling us that you killed those 3 young men on the subway?" Arthur: "Mm-hmm." Murray: "And why should we believe you?" Arthur: "Got nothing left to lose. Nothing can hurt me anymore. My life is nothing but a comedy." If we examine the lives of all the mass murderers and random shooters gunning down innocent people, we'd see this as a common characteristic, perhaps. Behind each evil deed that a man does is the driving force of him feeling unloved. Now, this is not to sympathize with the justifications of mad men. This is to illustrate what is at stake. If we as a society do not lift a finger to let those left out back in, if we turn to them only blind eyes, deaf ears, and cold shoulders, they will act out to ensure you see, hear, and feel their pain. The same can also be said of men that kill themselves. Much like Arthur, in coping with the tragedy that has become their lives, they attempt to develop their own mechanisms at the expense of others. Life would not allocate pleasures to them fairly. Now they are taking it upon themselves to carry the task of reallocating their misery upon others. Early on, they find it satisfying. They achieve vengeance and take their victims by surprise. The idea that their victims had no idea that this would happen inspires laughter. What exactly did they think was going to happen if all they do is shit on a man over and over again? Life is no longer tragic, but comedic. The scene continues with Murray attempting a self-righteous stance. Murray: let me get this straight. You think that killing those guys is funny? Arthur: I do, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Comedy is subjective, Murray. Isn't that what they say? All of you, the system that knows so much, you decide what's right or wrong the same way you decide what's funny or not. Arthur refers to a singular system, a collective, that makes the decisions for the individual. While he is referring to the value of his jokes in this scene, the same can be said about a system that determines the value of a man. We have a system like this in our real world that decides what's right and wrong as far as men are concerned. The same system also decides who is to be happy and who is to be zeroed out. This system is the fempowerment mandate. It takes precedence over your happiness. It's more important than your goals in life. It supersedes your need to a fulfilling relationship and recognition of your basic humanity. It says you're disposable at any time, and any value your life may possess is at the system's discretion. To question this system will have names hurled at you like chauvinist, misogynist, sexist, womanizer, creep, and douchebag. The bottom line is that you'll be an outcast, unwelcome in the world, and your existence itself will not be in good standing with the adherents of approved public opinions. Arthur experiences a little bit of this when he's booed by the audience, to which he responds, Arthur: oh, why is everybody so upset about these guys? If it was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me. Now watch what happens whenever a woman posts something that sounds depressing on social media. There are many that rush to comment a message of support. Not just the guys looking to be white knights, but her own support group, her own special support group of gal pals and gay males that always have her back and are there to rescue without looking for a thing in return. Do men have any first responders like this? When men cry for help on social media, people scroll right past them, or worse, ridicule them for not being a man. Why does a guy troll women on social media? Especially when women post about something sad? This is why. A cold imbalance. And it's not limited to social media. Look at the difference in response to female panhandlers versus male panhandlers. Or better yet, look at what happens when a man is abusing a woman in public, even if it's just verbally, and how soon strangers will intervene, versus when a woman is abusing a man, even when it's physical. Most people will just walk right by him as he's humiliated and harmed. The bystanders often think, well, he must have done something to deserve it. Arthur: I pass you every day and you don't notice me. How often do you as a guy feel unnoticed? When your messages on dating sites are ignored? When your texts are unreturned? When some explicit cry for help you make audibly enough for everyone to hear is completely glossed over, then everyone moves right past it. Arthur: but these guys what? Because Thomas Wayne cried about them on TV? Murray: you have a problem with Thomas Wayne? Arthur: yes, I do. Have you seen what it's like out there, Murray? Do you ever actually leave the studio? Everyone just yells and screams at each other. Nobody's civil anymore. Nobody thinks what it's like to be the other guy. You think that men like Thomas Wayne ever think what it's like to be someone like me? To be someone but themselves? They don't. They think that we'll just sit there and take it like good little boys. That we won't werewolf and go wild. It never enters the mind of a woman what it might be like to be her husband, whom she's turned down his sexual advances time after time. She has no idea how that destroys him from the inside. Or relationships where the effort the man has made was the epitome of sweetness and deep thoughtfulness. But to her, it's just an expectation, and single men have it no better. Seeing the cruel responses men have received from their well-intentioned first message on a dating site suggests the woman on the other end has no concern for how he might handle it emotionally. Or worst of all, during a public approach when he's trying to hold it together and do what he's been afraid to do for years, and she takes it as an opportunity to shit on him. They have no idea what it's like to be you. Much of it has to do with the fact that female life is so highly valued, and their value to the world is overinflated in this social media age. They live in a different world than us. And further, the hormonal imbalance that exists between the two of us, men have 18 times the amount of sex hormones that women do, it makes it impossible for them to understand why we value having such good relations with them. Murray, not everyone is awful. Arthur, you're awful, Murray. Murray, me? I'm awful? Oh yeah, how am I awful? Arthur, playing my video, inviting me on your show. You just wanted to make fun of me. You're just like the rest of them. I've seen many screenshots of conversations women have had with men posted on social media for all her friends to laugh at him. And in these conversations, there are not things that deserve shame on his part, like dick pics or crude behavior. Often he's just trying to be friendly and make a connection. Sometimes he exposes great vulnerability when doing this, and she finds it funny. Maybe it's because she feels he's beneath her. Another example, I've known women that use dating apps not for the intended purpose of meeting guys, but for their own amusement, to see how far the guys will go for the chance to meet her. They even make them do humiliating things for the promise of meeting up, which in the end never occurs. Or perhaps the most damning version of this is the real-world story known as the Tinder trap. Arthur, how about another joke, Murray? The misery most men face is exemplified best in this movie. The fact of the matter is that most men are depressed, and no one cares, so they keep it to themselves, buried deep within. If they were female, they could air their sadness and garner lots of emotional support. But being male, they're shamed for their sadness, like it's a sign of weakness. They're made fun of, insulted, and told to just man up. Some sadness is caused by the denial of female attention. Much of it is caused by our lives not going as we wished. And more of it is the fact that we can't seem to talk to anyone about it. This hunger for that recognition of our humanity can manifest itself in ways that could ruin our lives and inspire more pain. These are ways including, but not limited to, marrying the wrong woman out of a scarcity mindset, and this marriage eventually leading to a nasty, costly divorce. Setting your sights on just one woman, developing the dreaded one-itis for her, and when it doesn't work out with her, or at least not to your liking, you act out, and her denial of your existence drives you to do things that get her negative attention just to get her attention. And then there's seeing prostitutes to satisfy the urges. And for some guys, these prostitutes are the closest thing to a real-world representation of the connection they idealize having with a woman. And let's not forget running the risk of arrest in seeking out these prostitutes. Becoming addicted to pornography. At first, the images and videos satisfy your biological imperative to experience easily available and unlimited sexuality, but the satisfaction level starts to diminish with each viewing. More porn is needed to chase the high again. Much money is spent, and new twisted forms of porn are needed to arouse you. Some will even seek out child porn in order to be aroused. Being so desperate for the one woman you do have and becoming far too available to her, smothering her with attention that she's really turned off by and breaks up with you. Now you're left without the woman you've invested so much of yourself emotionally in and are held back in life. Notice that in each of these, the resulting misery is self-sustaining and spirals downward, deeper all on its own. It only gets worse as one wallows in it. They say time heals all wounds, which is true, but it's not the whole truth. First, we're not guaranteed time. Second, the time we are likely to have is short. 75 years of life amounts to 27,000 days. Third, time by itself does not heal us or improve our lives. It only gives us the possibility that other things can happen to better our outlook. Better things do not happen on their own. My last 2 books were written because the lords of randomness that govern this universe will not just randomly drop a beautiful woman in your lap, nor stuff millions of dollars in your pockets. You've got to make those things happen yourself. In the same way, happiness will not happen by default. Misery is actually the default mood of human beings. And that's evidenced by the fact that We will always, and most naturally, find something to bitch about at any given time. There are many books out there about happiness and give a lot of tricks and tactics to supposedly lift up your spirits. I've read many of them, only to be disappointed. Not so much that the authors were frauds or didn't know what they were talking about, but rather because the authors wrote for far too general of an audience. The fact is that there are struggles and causes of misery that are unique to the male experience, and these general happiness books were not able to address them, as they were often written by women, and the ones that were written by males, they were coerced by their publishers and agents to be inclusive so as not to offend women, the fempowerment mandate again. But I, Cairo Copeland, have no agent and publish all of this on my own. Therefore, it is my duty to you and to the Red Pill Consortium to share with you all the tools that have worked for me and my clients in our bouts with depression. I hope they will do wonders for you and bring back the zeal to live life. The male misery epidemic can be summed up like this. If you were to stop putting out a great effort to stay in contact with people, you'd soon be forgotten about. No one would check in on you. You could end up spending the rest of your life in isolation, and no one would notice. This book was written for that guy before that happens to him, or even while it is happening. For the guy that's been cheated on, dumped on his birthday, served divorce papers on his anniversary, humiliated at the altar, found her ring on the table with a note, friend-zoned, flaked on, and ghosted. Hang on to your hope. Help is on the way.
Thank you for listening to this free sample of the book, Reinvent Ideal: What to Do When You're Depressed and No One Cares Because You're Not a Chick, by Cairo Copeland. If you enjoyed it and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/ideal. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/ideal.